Dreamers can't be tamed.
So, welcome back to the Dreamer's Journey. I know I've been gone for a little while, a couple months now, that I haven't put out a podcast. And for those of you that have supported me for the past year, I want to thank you and say that I appreciate you guys um, because of all the support. You don't understand the amount of motivation, passion, and emotion that derive from the people who listen to my content, who view my content, who give me feedback, who say that it helps them every single day. So it just, I'm just so grateful for all of you guys and the continuous support that you have for me and my dream. And this is what the Dreamer's Journey is about. So I'm officially going to make this season 2. And it's pretty interesting because season 1, I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. And it was all right, not bad. I think that I learned a lot about just, editing and filming, but more so, I learned a lot about people. I learned a lot about myself. Um, and I think that's super important because uh, I've been thinking about the concept of ego. And this is what I want to talk about today because I believe that understanding ego is so important. Rancis and I talk about it here at Beta Project all the time, and it's a concept that continuously comes up that is the center of what we believe in terms of mindset education. Even when it comes to physical mastery, we talk about the ego and the role it plays in either moving us forward or limiting us from achieving what we really desire. And he recommended that I read the book Ego is Our Enemy. I believe that's the name of the book. And, um, they talked a lot, so much about the ego and how it can be a limiting factor for us. And everybody, like, I'm sure you guys talk to your friends, your family, and you're like, oh, this person got an ego and this person got an ego. But guess what? All you motherfuckers got egos, just like me. And it's so funny because we're always aware of someone else's ego, but not necessarily aware of ours. And recently, um, I've been going through a lot of obstacles and challenges, and not only with the business, but in my personal life. And I started actually taking jujitsu. I'm a white belt with one stripe, and at our school at Silver Fox, you actually have to do 25 sessions of just learning different moves and kind of the terminology and how to protect yourself so that before you actually get to spar or what they call roll with some of the other belts, you have some knowledge to kind of support you so you don't hurt the other individual or hurt yourself. So I actually got to start rolling, and I was telling Rancis that it is the one thing that challenges my ego every single day. Why? Because I'm getting my fucking ass kicked. And I thought about it and I was like, here at my center with the team and the role that I play as, the leader, one of the leaders, one of the owners, uh, and the visionary for this company, one of the visionaries, I've realized that my ego tends to get real big because, as the leader, as the entrepreneur, as the visionary, as the owner, you're the one. You're the one. You get to see it. You get to build it. You have the decision making. And sometimes when you're in that environment where you are number one or number two in terms of decision making or leadership, it's very easy for your ego to want to be right versus being effective. And by going to jiu-jitsu, it takes that away from me because it shows me how insignificant I can be. And it's humbling because there's nothing like getting your ass kicked by an older individual or someone that's heavier than you or someone that you feel or looks like they might be more out of shape of you or someone that's smaller than you. All these judgments that you have about people go out the fucking window because they kick your ass. And therefore, your ego has no choice but to sit the fuck down. Um, and I think it's so important to realize and kind of challenge ourselves every single day to be able to challenge our ego. and how that gets in the way of our relationships, how that gets in the way of our work or our desire to chase our dreams. It's all about our ego, and even the things that we believe we're not capable of doing, that we believe are limiting factors in our lives. The situations that we're in. That's all about the ego just being afraid or fearful of what is to come, of possibly failing. So I think it's so important to challenge yourself, uh, not just like physically or mentally, but your ego. Put it in a position where there's the possibility of failing, of being hurt, of being wrong. That's a great one. Um, the other thing that I did that was pretty interesting was that I went hiking by myself for the first time. So one of my team members went to hike with his son, and asked him where this was, and it was down by the Delaware Gap. It's called the Red Dot Trail. I think it's Mount Tammany or Tammany, something like that. Anyways, so I go and I never hiked by myself. I always hiked with a group or some other individual. And I did this because at that time, it was a Monday actually. I was feeling down. I was feeling sad. Just ended a intimate relationship. Um, so obviously my ego was hurt, and not because uh, the other individual had, said something or did something to me, but because it's a loss. And when we end a relationship, any type of relationship, it feels like a loss. And it's not necessarily the other individual. And to say that, like, not necessarily that you're losing some special individual, but there's a loss of a connection. And I think when that happens, our ego tries to find different reasons on why that connection was lost. So I decided to take some time for myself. I told my team, I was like, hey guys, I'm not coming in Monday. I'm gonna go hiking. I didn't tell them I was gonna go hiking. I just decided to go hiking. So I drive an hour out towards PA, the Delaware Gap, and I go on this trail. And it was pretty interesting because in the beginning, I was in the woods by myself for like a good 35, 40 minutes. And obviously, you have the trail, like, the markers on the trail, and you can see. Um, but I was scared. I was scared because it's something that I never experienced by myself. Um, and in that moment when I felt the fear is when I was like, oh shit. Like, looking at all these trees, looking at all these insects, different animals, becoming so aware, hyper aware of what's around me because I was so fearful. I realized how it challenged my ego, and nothing else mattered. Not the relationship, not the business, not, how my appearance or my body looks, how my knees feel, my shoulders feel, like all this stuff that I constantly worry about and I constantly have anxiety about, all went out the window when I was in that forest on that trail by myself. And it was a moment of consciousness that I kind of gathered, and I decided to stop at a rock and sit down and kind of just take it all in. Just allow myself to be fearful, allow my ego to be challenged, allow my ego to understand that death is a possibility, that it does exist for you like it does for every single living thing that exists in this planet. And in that moment is when everything kind of like melted away. And if you guys know me, like, I'm like, if anybody knows me, I'm like terrified of bees. Like, I never got stung by a bee. I'm terrified of fucking bees. And uh, fucking in a forest, there's a whole shitload of bees. Um, and at that moment, when I realized how I am one with everything that exists in that on that trail in that forest, I was able to let go of the fear, and I continued hiking, and I continued enjoying what was around me, continuing to enjoy the awareness, the hyper awareness that I had of being in that forest. Um, don't get me wrong, it's not like everything changed. Obviously, we go back to our natural habits. of what we've been doing, for example, for me for 34 years. Uh, but that was a little bit of consciousness that I gained in that moment. And I continued walking up. And it's a pretty tough trail. And I got to the top. And that moment of consciousness came again, of awareness, where I was able to see the landscape of, uh, Delaware and New Jersey. And I saw the gap, the river. And I was like, man, you're nothing. You're nothing. You are as big as the insect that's crawling right next to your foot. You are that important because that insect is important, just like you. And I was able to come down from that trail and that mountain and really understand, or get an understanding of my ego. And it's been something that calmed me down this week. Even when I get annoyed with my team members and my teammates, when I get annoyed with the business, or even get annoyed with Rancis, and in this particular situation, understanding why the intimate relationship that I had wasn't successful, and really accepting it for what it is and what it can be. Um, and it was really just about understanding my ego. And if you guys heard any of my other podcasts before this one, uh, I talked about ego often. And I've noticed that I go through these cycles where I give a lot of awareness to my ego. I give a lot of attention to be able to understand it, to step away from it, to observe it. And I think that's an important skill. Actually, no, I don't think. I know that it's an important skill to be able to step away from your ego, to observe it in when it limits you, and when you don't use it to actually move forward. That's actually a pretty big thing that most people don't really understand about ego. Everybody kind of always looks at ego as a bad thing. I don't necessarily believe it's a bad thing. I think it's just something that exists within us. And consciousness is the ability to look at our ego and understand how to use it to be able to achieve something we desire. And when you have a purpose, a meaningful purpose, where you can utilize the ego to achieve that meaningful purpose. And I think it's very important that people spend and reflect and observe and create awareness in when their ego is damaging, their lives, their relationships, and when the ego is not allowing them or not being utilized to achieve something. So for season 2 of the Dreamer's Journey podcast, I plan to just kind of do these like short bits. I don't want to go over half an hour. And I want to give stories that actually inspire you guys to build awareness with self, find your limitations, your limiting beliefs, create empowering beliefs that allow you to really achieve what you want in life. That's what the Dreamer's Journeys podcast is about. It's not about achieving a dream. It's about achieving whatever it is that you desire. Because anything from having the body that you've always wanted, the six pack, to building a multi-million-dollar business, all of those are dreams. All of that is a part of the vision of life that you have for yourself. And I want to make this podcast for season 2 something where you guys can utilize, take home with you, absorb, reflect, and use it. And I want you guys to be able to utilize me as a tool, not only through the content that I put out, but also make myself available to you guys to help you in whatever way that I can. So once again, I thank you guys for supporting me, for always listening to my content, and for believing in me and my dream, so I can help you and in yours. So thank you guys again, and be on the lookout. I'm going to try to do this more consistently. Thank you. Peace.